a strawberry blonde, blue-eyed woman marketing having great genes.
Yeah, no, this is crazy. This is crazy. In significantly lighter cultural news, the big controversy of the day, believe it or not, surrounds Sydney Sweeney's chest. Now, I know, Sydney Sweeney, very famous actress. She's on Euphoria. She's been doing a number of movies lately. But she's mostly famous because when she's on TV, when she's doing SNL, she shows a lot of cleavage. That is mostly what she is famous for. Listen, she's a very attractive woman, of course. She is doing a new American Eagle ad, and this apparently is just setting heads aflame. So here is the American Eagle ad that has generated enormous amounts of controversy on the left. And it has something to say about where we stand socially as a country on both left and right. It's kind of fascinating. It cross-cuts some political boundaries. Here's the American Eagle ad.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Okay, so for those who can't see, that's just a picture of her buttoning her jeans seductively as she talks about genes using a homonym. It's kind of a silly homonym. She has great genes, like Genes, as in like her genetic predispositions and characteristics. And then her genes are blue, Jeans, right? Her genes are blue. Okay, so that is the pun. I mean, no biggie. The real story here is that Sydney Sweeney is doing sexy commercials. All right. I mean, this has been a hallmark of advertising for, at this point, hundreds of years, probably. You go all the way back to the mid-19th century, and you can find print ads that I'm sure were suggestive at the very least. Here's another ad that she did with a Mustang.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Okay, so she shuts the hood on one Mustang. You get a tight shot of her rear, and then she gets into another Mustang. This is sort of supposed to be classic Americana. Okay, and when we say classic Americana, we mean that it's a cheesecake shot. So this has resulted in people going absolutely insane, like totally crazy. And I think first, it's important to note that people who are characterizing American Eagle as some sort of bizarre right-wing company are missing the boat. American Eagle is not a right-wing company. American Eagle is a jeans company that follows whatever it thinks are the prevailing trends of the time. So here, for example, is an ad that they cut in 2019. Okay, you can see in this ad, it is a bunch of people who are variously abled, who are of various body types. In any case, American Eagle is not a right-wing company is the point here. So the real question is, what is the zeitgeist? And this is being read in fascinating ways by the left and by the right. So the left is breaking down into sort of three categories over the Sydney Sweeney ad. And again, it is amazing that we are now having a controversy over what would have been in about 2005 a perfectly normal ad on your television. We'll get to the right in a second, because I'm old enough to remember when the right would have objected to such an ad. And some of us who are traditionally minded still object to the overt sexualization of women in advertising, as well as the sort of sexualization that is being done to our culture, right? Some of us are old enough to remember when Paris Hilton was grinding on cars for a Carl's Jr. commercial back in 2005 and objecting to that as being too raunchy and problematic. And when we say problematic, I don't mean like problematic in the left-wing sense. I mean morally problematic to put scantily clad, attractive women in advertising specifically to get people to buy product. That poses a moral problem for the right. For the left has gone completely insane. And so they've broken down into sort of two categories, both of them objecting to the ad. One is the sort of feminist line that this is made for the male gaze. It's all about the male gaze. Now, can we get over this nonsense? The male gaze. Okay, you know what men like to look at? Pretty women. Get used to it. That is the way of the world. It is the progeneration of the species. That is the basis of literally all human reproduction is, quote unquote, the male gaze. That is the beginning of all of it. That does not mean that men should ogle women. But if we are going to pretend that beauty does not exist and that men don't appreciate it, then you are just ignoring the realities of life. Okay, but this is one aspect of the left. They're very angry that, quote unquote, the male gaze exists, which is really, really silly. But that is really not the angle that they are taking most of all. What they are really taking most of all is the angle that there is something peculiarly Nazi about all of this. There's a piece in the Washington Post titled How American Eagle Sydney Sweeney Good Genes Ad Went Wrong. Well, it's hard to say that it went wrong when it is the most talked about ad of the last 5 years. For American Eagle, it's a very good ad. According to a conversation between fashion critic of the Washington Post, Rachel Toshjian, and Style Memo newsletter writer Shane O'Neill. According to that particular discussion, the biggest problem with the ad is the genetic component. Quote, the most provocative part of the campaign is when she's talking about offspring and genes. That's a message about mutable identity there. And that could be extended into a vision of America as a place where you're not bound by who you are at birth. But they went the full opposite of that. To be honest, I think the ad campaign didn't exactly know what it wanted to be. I think what's getting people talking is how regressive the ads seem, says Toshjian. The line about her having great genes. Several people are suggesting in the comments on Instagram and TikTok this is a pro-eugenics ad. Whether or not that's the case, it is part of a wave of imagery of influencer pop stars and musicians that feel tethers to the value of another time. So, I mean, again, this is where you're going to see a right-wing backlash building. The values of another time would be men think attractive women are attractive because attractive women are attractive. Good-looking people are better looking than not good-looking people. Like, if that's tethered to the values of another time, that would be tethered to the values of all time. There's nothing new there. If that were not the case, I promise you sales of Ozempic would be significantly lower. So would sales of makeup. Okay, but the left is now trying to turn this into a sort of take on Volkish German Nazi-esque imagery. We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, here's the reality. Over 90% of Americans aren't getting enough dietary fiber. Most of us aren't hitting that recommended variety of fruits and veggies either. I know that I typically didn't, which is why I tried Balance of Nature supplements. These aren't some artificial knockoffs trying to mimic what nature provides. They simply let nature do its job. We're talking about 47 real ingredients: mango, wild blueberries, spinach, kale, shiitake mushrooms, broccoli, the whole works. Plus, their fiber and spice blend is also unique. It combines 4 whole fibers like psyllium husk and flaxseed with 12 aromatic spices, including turmeric and cinnamon. You won't find another supplement that does this. I also appreciate no artificial additives, no added sugars, just clean ingredients. They're vegan, kosher certified by the OU, and gluten-free. You can even mix the powder into smoothies or sprinkle it over food. No bags, no mess, no measuring. I use it myself. Again, it's great. It means that when I'm on the road and I'm having trouble with the nutrition, a much necessary supplement. After years of research and development, they've created something that makes getting proper nutrition much more convenient. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get that free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code Shapiro. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code Shapiro. There is in this piece a reference to this idea. One of the writers, the newsletter writer for the Washington Post, says, the first thing I thought of when I heard the tagline, Sydney Sweeney has great genes, was the DHS Instagram account, which posted a subtly racist painting a few weeks ago and an explicitly racist painting last week. The latter depicted a gigantic, blonde, buxom woman chasing away Native people to make way for white settlers. When this is the imagery being promoted by our government, a pun about genes hits differently. And then the Washington Post style critic wrote, we're being fed a lot of images of thinness, whiteness, and unapologetic wealth porn, while with this cover, influencers like Alex Earl and Sabrina Carpenter's album cover. Okay, so again, they continue to promote the idea that there's something terribly evil and eugenic about the Sydney Sweeney ad. And here's a bunch of crazy ladies on TikTok saying the same thing.
Those Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ads are weird, like fascist weird, like Nazi propaganda weird. Would we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
Saying anybody has good genes is eugenics. Blonde hair, blue-eyed, Nazi. This pro-Americana talking about pure Americans having good genes. This is Nazi. That people, especially Jews, have been warning about for a very long time. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Genes is just a play on genes. Shut the fuck up. This is Nazi.
Sydney Sweeney's jeans ad is giving ethnic state propaganda. It is giving dystopian. It is giving 1940s Germany. And they could have had her said anything. She could have just said, I'm hot, drink my bathwater, here are my genes. But instead they had her say, genes are passed down from parents to children. I have good genes. My genes are blue. Why? Yeah, no, that was like the most thinly veiled propaganda I think that I've ever seen.
American Eagle, who is in charge of your marketing department? Joseph Goebbels? a strawberry blonde, blue-eyed woman marketing having great genes. Would you do this with a model of color? Think about it. Would you?
I mean, they probably will. My guess is that their next ad will be a model of color saying the exact same thing. It'll be a beautiful black woman saying the exact same thing. Probably. It's all a catfish. By the way, I love that last guy in the TikTok video, if you can't see, he's wearing an Adidas shirt. We should note at this point that Adidas was founded by two brothers with significant ties to the actual Nazis. So, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm sorry. A play on words, genes and jeans, is not meant to be a reference to the Nazis. And also, when people look at Sydney Sweeney, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings here. Her eye color and hair color are the third and fourth things people are looking at when they look at Sydney Sweeney. Okay, let's be real about that. So when she says she has good genes, people are not thinking about her eye color. That's silly. Nonetheless, the left is pushing forward with this nonsense. Advertising expert Robin Landa, a professor at Michael Graves College at Keene University, told Newsweek, quote, "The campaign's pun isn't just tone deaf, it's historically loaded." Landa said the phrase good genes was once central to American eugenics ideology, which promoted white genetic superiority and enabled the forced sterilization of marginalized groups. Yeah, that's what's going to happen here. This is going to lead to forced sterilization. That's probably where this is going. By the way, for all the talk about the failure of the ad, American Eagle stock has surged 4% since the ad was released. You know why? Because earned media is, in fact, we wouldn't be talking about American Eagle on this program if the left hadn't gone totally insane over an innocuously stupid ad. Hey, now, to the response from the right. And this is kind of fascinating. So the right has split on this ad. Not in the sense they agree with the left, of course. That's silly. But it demonstrates the difference between anti-left and traditional right, which are not the same thing. President Trump's coalition, for what it's worth, is an anti-left coalition. It includes a bunch of people who are not in any way, shape, or form conservative, but they don't like the insanity of the left. And then there are the traditionally conservative. And the reactions to the ad differ between the two groups. So you're seeing a lot of people in the online space who are anti-left, who look at the insane reaction of the left to this, calling it Nazi propaganda, suggesting that it is all about the male gaze and the evils of the male gaze tethered to another time and all this crap. And you see a bunch of people on the right who are like, this ad is great. It's making America great again. This ad is bringing back what makes America awesome. This is a reversion to the heterosexual norm and all the rest. Okay, now, let's be clear. The left can be perfectly insane, stupid, and wrong. And also, this ad is effectively no different from when Brooke Shields back in the 1980s was saying nobody gets between me and my Calvins. Right? This ad can both be a rejection of the sort of post-gender insanity pushed by the left, and also it can just be a piece of very soft-core pornography. I say very soft-core because, of course, it's not pornography quite, but it is certainly more in that arena than it is in the arena of art. Clearly, it is attempting to use sex to sell jeans. That is literally the purpose of the commercial. And so being a moral traditionalist, I do not actually believe that commercials like this are amazing for America. I think it's good to expose the left for being totally insane. And I think it is worthwhile noting that the left is totally crazy. But if you're a traditionally moral person, if you're somebody who's a churchgoer, a synagogue goer, for example, and you look at this ad, you're saying, okay, what this looks like is a way to get a bunch of young people to buy jeans by showing Sydney Sweeney's butt and breasts, basically. And is that good for culture? Is that good for male-female relations? Is the over-sexualization of our society, has that been a generally good thing, or is that a generally bad thing? And so what you see is the reactionary nature of the anti-left, which is correct in slapping down the left, but then goes too far by suggesting that what America needs is more TNA. That TNA is the only solution to what ails us. Okay, well, actually, no. Two things can be true at once. One, the left is totally insane. There's nothing Nazi-esque about a jeans pun. And by the way, it is not Nazi for Sydney Sweeney to be a star. That is not a Nazi thing. We live in an era in which Zendaya is in every movie that has been made for the past 10 years. So I don't think that we are in danger of like a whites-only Hollywood here or a whites-only advertising industry. So the anti-left is right to mock the left for being totally insipid and insane. But the right is also split between people who don't actually hold any sort of traditional values and people who do hold those traditional values. And they exist in a sort of uneasy coalition. It'll be fascinating to see how that coalition works moving forward. By the way, you're going to start to see this coalition fray, just politically speaking, once it's in power, because then there are divisions over how to actually handle policy. And you're seeing that happen actually in real time, right? You are seeing many of these so-called podcast bros who endorsed President Trump mainly out of ire at the left for being totally crazy, who are starting to revert to type, and now they're very critical of President Trump's actual conservative policies. Among these people would be, say, Andrew Schultz, the podcast bro, who sort of endorsed Trump out of ire at the left and then turned around and talked about how the only honest people in America are the actual democratic socialists of America. I think you'll see some of this from Joe Rogan, who is never on the right. It's always been amusing to me. I'm friends with Joe. It's always been amusing to me when the left says the left needs its own Joe Rogan. It's like, guys, Joe Rogan would have voted for Bernie Sanders were he on the ballot. Like, let's be clear. Joe Rogan is not of the right. And so what you will see is, as President Trump pursues conservative policies on everything from tax to foreign policy, that a lot of these podcast bros will be angry at President Trump because they're not actually conservative. And a lot of the manosphere guys are not actually conservative. They are more in line with the TNA is good for America, as opposed to the traditionally conservative position, which is modesty is good for America. Traditional male-female relationships are good for America, and the left is insane. And so as we move forward in time, what you will see is a split inside the right over this issue. There is no split on the left, really. It's hard to find anybody on the left who's defending this ad today because they've all lost their minds. And so as long as the left is completely crazy, any splits on the right are going to look mild by comparison. But it's important to note that there is, in fact, a split on the right between the people who just don't like the left and the people who actually do hold traditional conservative values on a wide variety of issues. And you should keep your eye on that because a lot of those people who are basically joining the right-wing coalition as a response to the left will start infusing that right-wing coalition with left-wing values if given half a chance. It won't be the crazed full version left-wing values, but many of the left-wing values will migrate over to the right because of the nature of the coalition that has been created against the left right here. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.